What's up, y'all? This is your boy. You don't know who I am, but Austin, aka Wonder Bread, however you want to call me. This is gonna be my first place magician deck profile from the most recent Just Flip San Jose well, case, quote unquote, tourney for their gold release. Not a lot of people expected this deck. Nobody really knows how to play against it unless they played against it a long time ago, and it catches them off by surprise, which is partly why I think it's a good choice. It just takes a really good pilot and a really good build. So this is my iteration. I've been playing this deck since it first came out, and I think this is one of my favorite variants so far, and there's going to be some very niche weird things, but you just got to trust me on it. So for the magicians, you play triple double iris, triple harmonizing, triple celestial, triple purple poison, triple wisdom, triple oath, and one black fang. To be honest, you really just want to see names and different scales. Triple oath for a very good reason, because now you have access to very good level 10 synchro and baron, or baroness, however you want to call it. And so you just pull this from the deck with harmonizing, you get an instant baroness and continue with the rest of your play strings. Celestial I think is mandatory at 3. It feels underwhelming for most people, but when you realize if you make a baroness or any synchro and you have them on field and you activate his effect and your opponent has no response, or like they're holding nibs or whatever, and you already have inherent negation, then he basically shock masters them for the turn for monster effects. And plus, if you have a pendulum, you get search during the end phase, so just a lot of advantage, and just shuts off all their interactions unless they have chalice, imperm, or stuff like that. But yeah, the rest is pretty generic. Double iris back to 3 searches your pen graphs, pretty mandatory. Wisdom gets you there. Purple I like at 3 because if you go second, you can pop stuff, and it comes up a lot in terms of anti-spell and Imperial Order since they're so prominent this format. Black Fang is just kind of a one-of. You don't really want to see him, but going second, he allows you to break Appaloosa boards and stuff like that because it forces out interactions beforehand if they can, because you just cut it in half and you walk over or crash it with the purple and then blow up a lot of things. So that's kind of the basics for the actual magician part. Then we have for the randoms, we got one Luster Pendulum. This searchable off Dual Star Alliance combos with your Ignister plays. You can special summon him off the Ignister after you spin something, and then you go from Howl combo from there. So that's pretty good. And if you open up like this plus double iris or purple poison, let's say double iris going first or purple poison going second, you just kind of combo off from there. And then you got 2 jokers for normal summons. He's there if you need it. Search him end phase with celestial, gets you anything you need, baits out a bunch of negates like chi chows and stuff. And then 1 tuning magician. I bumped this down to 1. I'm not really focused on the Hulk lines, so that's kind of why this is only at 1, because otherwise it's a brick. It's a good extender, but I don't want to see more than 1. I don't even want to see this one, to be honest. So that's really why it's only at 1, but it's your call. This is just my personal take on the build. And what I've shown you so far, what I am showing you is basically more or less the skeleton, so to speak, and then the rest is my spin on it. So then for the rest of the pen skeleton, you got triple Duelist Alliance, triple pen call, double star pen, double time pen. This is debatable, but I really like the doubles. It lets you see it more often in your hand. You don't have to search for it, especially if you don't open up double iris or a way to get to double iris, and it just gives you the ability to broaden and widen what you're searching off of Duelist Alliance and double iris and such like that. Pen call is still really good for comboing with time pendulum graph, get free, pop 1, send another. This is kind of your out to Phoenix Enforcer among a myriad of other things, but it's the easiest one in grind game, resource game, stuff like that. So that's kind of the basic skeleton. The rest is kind of what I add on to help. So this is more or less exactly what I played, but I played triple Phantasme because the thought was, Tri-Brigade's still prominent, but also now that DPE is a thing, a lot of people are going to make Vert and go from Vert into there, and you at least would get the draw for the Vert. And then Pink is just very generic, going second, very good, helps out Anti-Spell and Imperial Order. And the other thing what's really good about this deck in particular is you don't have to worry about dead draw going first, because if it's in your hand, you just Pendulum summon it, and they have on-field effects that you can proc and have live during your first turn. You don't, it's not sitting there in your hand. So that's the other really good thing about them. To be fair, this was a bad call. It was not useful at all during the tournament, but it would be more so sideboard relegation at the moment. I was expecting a lot more of the Vert and DPE interactions, but everyone that was making DPE, which was a lot of them, was basically just using Fusion Destiny itself and hard drawing it. And they were like Sword Soul, Eldritch, stuff like that. That wasn't really inherent on links. But this is like a staple mandatory. You shouldn't play it Pendulum without, I don't think. And then for the spice is 1 Alistair, 1 Invocation, and then triple Fusion Destiny, 1 Celestial, 1 Plasma. For the tournament, for the purposes, I didn't have or couldn't find my Plasma, so I was literally playing 1 Malicious. Shout out to the people who thought I was. Someone told me, like, oh, that's good follow-up play in my head. It's like, yeah, totally. But I was literally only playing the 1 because it was a name, and I don't want to draw more than 1 Malicious. I drew it enough as it is, but Plasma's the way to go, because as people are finding out by now, Dasher's cool, but in Pendulum especially, you don't care about free special from the hand. Whereas if you're cracking your opponent's board, or you get hand trapped and you're sitting on 3 Pendulum monsters, just tribute them all, summon for this, and let's say you're going second or breaking a board, you summon this, blanket their board, steal something. If, let's say, somehow you have Fusion Destiny in hand, you know, balls to the wall, activate the Fusion Destiny, you already cleared something with this, then you spin this, the Celestial from deck, hopefully, and then you get DP on top of that. So it's kind of the thought process, and it's just the best. And Celestial for the rebound, the draw 2 is just insane. And that's pretty much it for the main deck. It's 43, I believe. I like the 43 because you don't want to draw the bricks from being Alistair, which isn't that bad, but mainly Invocation or the Plasma, which, same thing with Alistair, is not that bad, but depending on the situation, you don't want to draw them. You want to draw Pendulum names. You want to draw the monsters, because that's how you combo off. For extra deck, 1 Time Star, 1 Dweller. Mandatory, this interchange with whatever you want. It's like a meta call, honestly. This, in theory, works well. Never really came up, but just switch it out with whatever you want. Then we got Makaba and DPE for the fusions. Both part of your combos. Both very good. This allows you to play through Nibiru, going first and extending your combos to reach the rest of your end board. So it's very good. And for synchros, you got 1 Ignister, 1 Savage, 1 Baroness. Same thing with Makaba. Basically, depending on your hand, allows you to play through Nib and hand traps for that matter. And it's just part of your generic end board if you get to it, depending, of course, you know, this whole deck is just a giant toolbox and you work with what you got. But Savage, same thing as Baroness, but this is more so the last thing you make instead of the first thing, because you obviously have to have a link to make it live. And Ignister, it used to be, I mean, it's always been played, you know, out for DeGroom, out for other stuff that you can't really easily handle, but he comes up, like I mentioned earlier, spin something else, you can potentially kill one of your scales, like an Iris or a Black Fang or a Purple that procs something else, summons the Luster from deck, and then Hulk combo from there, and you get up to Access Code. So it's kind of what it's in. And before Baroness came out, he also was a really weird, bad first turn play, where, because I didn't play Tornado Dragon to pop your double Iris first turn, but now you have Baroness and DPE, and it fixes all the problems. And then for the links, 1 Artemis, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Vert, 1 Hulk. I'm playing 2 Celine. I don't know how I really feel about it. Technically, 1 is for if you go full combo first turn, and the second's for a follow-up, but there are some times where you don't actually have the spells to resolve this first turn, so that also dictates what you can do for the rest. But, you know, it is what it is. Same thing with Dweller, just dictate. And then Appaloosa and Access Code for end boards and cleanup for that matter. This is mandatory, even if you're not playing Alistair Engine, because obviously normal summon Alistair, sack it off for this. And then that gives you a light target with Alistair in a grave already, so that's a free Makaba. But this is mandatory in Pen Magician's period, because if you have nothing else going on, and let's say like a name and star Pendulum graph, then you just normal summon sack it off for this, trigger the Star Pendulum Graph to search for like a wisdom or whatever you're missing. So this is very, very crucial. That's it for the extra. Of course, the 15. I'll do a quick brief of the side deck before I show you like the basic combo, but side deck was okay for the most part. There's a couple changes, but one of them being this, I would main deck over Phantasme, period. This thing was MVP. 2 Cyclone, triple Dark Ruler, triple Evenly, triple Judgment. This is for going first. I think it's really your only necessary going first hand card, and it comes in so clutch. This is literally your counter for Evenly, which is your biggest nightmare, or Dark Ruler. Evenly, like Droplet, is the wombo combo, and there's nothing you can do about that, to be honest. But let's say you have Judgment and they evenly match you. Instead of baiting with your monster like a Baroness or something like that, you solemn it, they can't Droplet anymore. So it resolves and you maintain your interaction for later. Dark Ruler, same thing. This just cancels the Dark Ruler. And then I did 1 reboot for Evenly and Anti-Spawn IO, and I side decked Goddess of the Underworld. This could be like Cowboy if you're in a sweaty event and just want to kill in time, but this is, I would sideboard out for Makaba if I was going second, because I don't want to draw the Alistair in Invocation, because that's just extra brick potential. So it kind of worked out, but you know, to each their own. And just to put it into perspective, it's hard to say there's like one generic full combo, because it really depends on your hand and your line of play. But generically speaking, all you need to do is resolve a harmonizing, and let's just say scales, and harmonizing is like almost full combo from there. It's just one of the play strings. So if you want me to do like the rest of the play strings, just hit up Dark Signer, let them know, and I can make longer videos on that or more videos, because I could talk forever about it. But this is just the one resolve harmonizing. You have generic combo that I first brought out with this before Baroness came out, and this just, you know, used to be with Dragoon, but now much better with DPE because it triggers a lot. So let's just say, I don't know, any scales will make it best of the best. Generically, you always want these two, Oath and Iris for scales. So we're just gonna say you have Oath and Iris just for the lulz, and this will really show you how this interacts so well with the rest of your extra deck going on. So through everything, Pendulum summoned 1 harmonizing, and we're, you know, perfect world. Your opponent has no hand traps, who cares? Resolve the effect. This can get anything. Generally, I get, where's he at? Celestial, just because I always want to see him, because he's really that good. Like if you have another monster or something like that, like Pendulum Call, if you have the other scale or whatever, I always search these. Like if you have scales, search these two, because this shuts off your opponent's hand traps, and that is too good to pass up. So you get this off, and you overlay for Time Star effect, and this is where your handy dandy Alistair boy comes in, because not a lot of people realize he's a generic Dark Spellcaster searcher, which voila, Alistair is. So the other thing why it works so well, Pendulum doesn't use normal summon aside from Joker, and that also dictates the rest of your combo. If you need to, then there's different play strings you can do, but this is the most generic one. Normal Alistair, link the Alistair off for the Artemis. Then you take those two, and while he's good on field, you need him the body for the combo. For Cross Sheep, then you activate Invocation, you banish the Artemis, you banish the Alistair. You need to get yourself a wonderful Makaba, and I've grown accustomed to putting things in defense, as should you. Plays around Droplet and running over, and also plays around Lightning Storm, which is very prominent. Invocation, shuffle it back in the deck, get you free monster negation. You don't need this for next turn. It's literally just if they're going to beat over it, use it to protect or free monster negation. But before that, obviously, trigger your Cross Sheep. This is how you cycle back your resources, because Pendulums are dead when they're in the grave, but if you bring them back on field, they go back to the extra deck. Wonderful. And you take these two, and then this is where the Selene comes in handy. You make the Selene. You could go and avert from here, but you want to really get your resources back online. Use this, and this is why, like, let's say before we did, this is like the 5-head play, before you shuffle this back and get the Alistair, leave the Invocation in there, so you have 3 spell counters. That's the situation I said. So then you res it back because you have 3 spell counters. Then you can do the invocation for Alistair, free plus. Then you take these two, you link these off. Instead of going Appaloosa, right here, we're just going to go Vert, because, you know, if you have the Fusion Destiny in hand, you make an Appaloosa for 2, and that's a bigger end board. But for the Vert, you then pay your lovely 2k life, and you're going to send the Fusion Destiny, send the Plasma, send a Celestial for your guaranteed follow-up next turn. And then you're going to summon your lovely DPE. And from here, what I do is, instead of popping himself and triggering himself, I kind of hold off because I want to get rid of the Vert, because, you know, if someone's playing Super Poly, this is bad, but this is arguably Super Poly anyways, depending on what they play. But you would DP to pop this, but Oath would add back your other scale, which is crucial for this because the scale effect very good. And then DPE, pop these two. You trigger your double iris, and that grabs you your trap. So that way you have interaction through, like, let's say a Dark Ruler or a Droplet, something like that. And then you activate this scale, because his scale effect is basically if an extra deck that's not Link is destroyed by your opponent's card effect or battle, you kill this card and you special it back. So if they run over your Makaba, you don't need to worry about proccing its effect. You just let it die, then it comes back for free. Same thing with DPE. You don't have to worry about shotgunning things. And then you set the trap, and that's your generic end board. It doesn't look super threatening, but I promise you it really is, especially since there's not a lot of inherent spell and trap negation. So, like, on your turn, why DP is also so broken is because he procs your send effect from Time Pendulum Graph whenever you want. So how you do that, and you work around, like, let's say they have a DP or they have a Dragoon that already uses effect or whatever. Let's say just something you can't destroy and you need to send, non-targeting. You go Time Pendulum Graph, target something else, target your scale. Let's say this guy, your Celestial. And then you go Chainlink 2, DPE, target that same Magician wherever it is that you're targeting with Time Pendulum Graph, destroy something else. I mean, it doesn't target what you're doing, you're just popping them. But you pop something else on their field, you pop your own, and resolving the chain backwards, since your trap didn't kill your Magician wherever it is, it then gets to proc. Not only does it kill the other target from your opponent, it gets to proc the secondary effect where you get to send something else from the field. So then you get 2 free pops. So in that whole interaction, you get rid of 3 cards on top of, like, a Macabre Negate. So that's the whole basis. And then, like I said, there's just so many different iterations and combos you can do depending on your hand, and just, you know, the board presence, and obviously the matchup you're doing, because some things are better than others in terms of the matchup. But that's pretty much it. And like I said, if you want more in-depth knowledge on my experience with this deck and how I see it, which is very different from how a lot of people do it. I know Triff's running around with, like, the Scythe build, which is good, but I just don't like the auto win stuff. I hate it. And I'd rather like this, where Sight doesn't work against everything, makes sense. But this is more or less generic for stuff. Sure, technically bricks more, because I'm not playing Prosperity and all that jazz, but that's just because this is toolbox version. And I like making big boards that are, like, you know, inherent 20 million negates or whatever. But feel free to let Dark Signer know, like and subscribe. Peace out, y'all.